When you start a new project, it is important to immediately identify all relevant people or organizations impacted by the project and to analyze and document their relationships to and potential impact on the project. These people are known as stakeholders. Examples of stakeholders include the project sponsor, vendors or business partners, the project manager and team, and customers or end users. They are people or groups whose interests may be positively or negatively affected by the execution or completion of the project. Managing a project isn't just about managing work. It's also about managing work in relation to people's expectations. As a project manager, you'll be dealing with different types of stakeholders. Some stakeholders are internal and actively involved in the project. Active stakeholders make frequent choices that affect how project work is accomplished. This group can include project team members, customers, experts, and consultants. Other stakeholders may be outside the project, but they have an interest in the project's success or failure. One example could be members of the public. Where active stakeholders are usually supportive of the project, external stakeholders may be supportive, neutral, or even hostile. This is because they perceive the project as affecting their own interests. External stakeholder groups also require careful attention. These stakeholders may not be of benefit to the project, but they have the potential to create barriers to progress. Stakeholder analysis is where you classify stakeholders so you can prioritize them according to their significance to the project. This technique helps you assign an importance level to each stakeholder in terms of achieving project objectives. So you've got your list of stakeholders. You'll use different parameters to organize them. Some examples you could use include power. This is their capacity to help or hinder the project. For example, the project sponsor holds considerable power. Interest. Some of your stakeholders may be interested and involved in the progress of the project, while others may care little or not at all. The customer is an example of a highly interested stakeholder. Influence is the ability to persuade, coerce, or motivate people to bring about change. For example, special interest groups can often rally support from others, particularly members of the public. Impact is the degree to which a stakeholder's action or inaction could affect successful project execution. For example, suppliers can have considerable impact because the project schedule may be dependent upon getting accurate deliveries on time. There are classification models you can use to do your stakeholder analysis. The most common is a 2x2 grid, sometimes called a stakeholder matrix. Power and interest, power and influence, and impact and influence are common pairings of characteristics. You assign each stakeholder to the quadrant that indicates the degree to which they conform to both of the characteristics. So, for example, stakeholders will be either high power and high interest, high power and low interest, low power and high interest, or low power and low interest. Once you have gathered all the information about your stakeholders and have them classified, it's time to enter your information in a stakeholder register template. This template is a standard form with columns for each category of relevant information. The specific stakeholder information categories on a template can vary from project to project, but in general, you'll need to include basic information about each stakeholder. Information may include name, contact information, position, role in the project, expectations, and classification based on your analysis of this stakeholder. Here are some tips for managing stakeholder expectations. You need to learn your stakeholders' expectations. These may change during the lifetime of the project, so you need to continually monitor them. You will work with stakeholders to ensure that requirements align with business objectives and are realistic and achievable. Communicate with stakeholders early in the project about the process for creating the project's scope and for changes during the project. This helps to set expectations and avoid misunderstandings. You should also provide regular status reports on deliverables, approved changes, and progress toward fulfilling strategic objectives. Communication with stakeholders should be regular and frequent. Stakeholders not only provide initial requirements for the project, they also help steer the direction of the project once project work begins. Make sure your stakeholders understand the importance of their participation. Unfortunately, problems occur during projects. You should address problems immediately with the stakeholders. Your stakeholder analysis will help you determine how best to communicate in these situations. Regular communication with stakeholders is important for project support and buy-in. Meetings are a great way to communicate and to gather key stakeholders for interactive sessions. Stakeholders can provide vital feedback and expertise to your project. They can help to steer the direction of the project to ensure the requirements are being met. In summary, it is important to identify all relevant people or organizations impacted by the project and to analyze and document their relationships to and potential impact on the project. These are your stakeholders, and you need to understand their expectations and communicate with them throughout the project.